welcome to the Senior Synth stream. Today we are going to talk about drum machines through time, and we are going to demo some drum machines. But before I say hello to our guests, I'll say hello to the chat. We have Chreshead waiting, and Kostukai, Vagu, and Tasha, something about irrelevant coffee table. And half god, half god, half beast. And I think that's about it for the moment. Faratopia is also here. Yes. So let's welcome our guests. And we have from Mexico, we have Kinkas. Welcome. And so far
Hi
you're
there.
muted, but yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah. And we have Dan Phillips, not representing his work. He works at Cork, but representing himself. Yes. And
nice to join you.
Yeah, nice to have you. And we have Tim Dale from Britain, from what is it called where you are?
Wales.
Wales. I keep forgetting that. Okay. We will get some more guests coming later, but right now it's us. Damn you. Let's start with hearing how's your week has been. So Dan first.
Well, here in the increasing troubled United States of America, the news dominates my week as it does usually. But it's been okay. I was telling you before that I just got 3 vaccinations yesterday, which was probably in retrospect bad timing because I'm very, very tired today. So if I'm quiet, that is why.
Yeah.
But
got it
I'll be healthy,
today,
so that's good.
Yeah. So I get quiet at some time too, maybe. Kinkas, how has your week been?
Busy. I'm working with a Brazilian studio on a Netflix show. So I'm on and off getting cues to compose and taking care of my 2 little girls. And I'm running a new channel called Bass Fox.
We have to
trying to learn from my experience having done the Synth DIY Guy YouTube channel, and now doing one more focused on the bass guitar, which is my current main interest. I change focuses every couple of years, and being pretty busy, but good, all good things. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, we have to raise your volume a little bit.
Mine?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I hear myself super loud. That's why I'm like stepping back from the microphone. Yeah, because I hear myself way louder than you guys for some reason. Is this better? And if I come closer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, better.
I'll just come closer when I need to speak.
Yeah. So you're returning with some Synth DIY guy.
Well, that never really ended. I'm continuing to do the occasional video on Synth DIY projects, as well as just general synth-based things. And one upcoming video will be for the Erica Synth steam pipe. Mm-hmm. I recently did videos about their effects unit, the Echo Locator, which is a very fancy delay unit, and the other one is a reverb. It's called Night Verb, and so I did videos for. I still do a lot of work for Erica Synths, and I did some. There's Hex House. They have these very slim DIY synthesizers, so I just put out a video on that as well. So I keep up with my Synth DIY Guy YouTube channel, which got merged with my main official artist channel, which is Kinkas Moreira Music. But then I've been, for the last 2 or 3 years, been really going back to my roots as a bass player, and rather than buying synths and modules, I've been buying bass guitars. I have 20 now, and so I decided to start a channel focused on that interest as well. I've already gotten my first pedal for that channel, specifically from Chase Bliss. It's called the Clean pedal. It's kind of a really interesting creative compressor effect. It's stereo, so it's good for synths and drum machines as well. So I'm going to be doing a sponsored review of this for the new channel. By the way, the Bass Fox channel only has 82 subscribers, whereas my other one has 220,000. So it's kind of funny to like start again from scratch, having gone pretty far on my main channel. But it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to have that feeling again of just starting something anew and trying to strategize how to make it grow organically and all of that. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. And you brought some friends in the background, the Perkins and...
Yeah, since this is a drum machine themed stream, I figure what I have to contribute is my Erica Synths lineup, which consists of mainly the LXR, which is in partnership with Sonic Potions. This is the LXR02. Sonic Potions made the first version, and then they joined forces with Erica Synths to make the second one. This is a fully digital drum synth based drum machine, and it's really wonderful. I use it a lot for work, for composition and stuff. I also have the module over there in the there's a big modular synthesizer over there, and I have the LXR module as well, which I use in conjunction with modular sequencing situations. But for day-to-day work, this is just easier to just plug in, use the internal sequencer, or send it MIDI, and you can save. And the synth engine is really deep, so you can really create very interesting, unique sounds with this, despite it being digital. And then I also have their this is a hybrid counterpart, which is the Perkins. The Perkins is, as you can see, much larger. It's much more immediate and tactile and intuitive. So, and that's a lot of fun. The synth engines themselves are hybrid. So, usually the oscillator section will be digital, but then it goes through analog filtering, analog distortion, analog compression. It has one single row of sequencing per voice. It's only 4 voices. So that makes it very hands-on and intuitive. There's literally no menu diving because there's not even a screen. So it's one of my favorite ones. I use it a lot for 808 type bass sounds because I can send it MIDI and control like a single channel of it with that 808 sound, but then following the bass line of the song. So it's like the best of both worlds, in my opinion. I enjoy both very much for different kind of uses and situations. And I have other drum machines. I'm an MPC guy originally. Like in the early 2000s, I produced a lot of hip hop in Brazil with some well-known rappers from there. And our scene was very MPC centered. So I had an MPC 2000 XL back then. Nowadays I have the MPC 1, and I still use it a lot whenever I need to compose more sample-based kind of music. I really like the hands-on feel of the pads and the way my mind thinks when I'm composing in a machine like that. I mean, I can do it all in a computer using controllers as well, and it might be easier sometimes, but the result is never quite as interesting and creative as I can do with the MPC. And I have the SP404 Mark II as well, which is, I consider it like a smaller, lighter, cheaper alternative for when I go perform live, to not have to bring the MPC, and also the effects are really cool on that. So those are my 4 main drum machines that I use: the 2 Erica Synths ones, the Roland, and the Akai. But normally in the studio, when I'm composing, I'm using these two more than anything else, just because I think they're more rare, interesting, unique, and original. And as you can see in the background, there's a drum set over there too. So normally in my compositions, I use a hybrid situation where part of the beat will be programmed with these drum machines, but I also always have a layer of real drums, acoustic drums on top, especially for cymbals and for dynamics, for variations, things like that. I might even quantize the real drums to make them match the drum machines a little better. But I think it's a little bit of my signature as a drum programmer inside of my composition work to have the hybrid, and the fact that I can play drums and I have a good drum set with nice cymbals and it's all mic'd up all the time. I have 8 microphones going into my interface, so it's easy to just open up a template with the 8 channels already assigned, and it doesn't take me any. Sometimes it's more effort actually to set up the drum machine than it is to just go behind the kit. And so yeah, that's my drum machine, drum programming situation method.
Okay, and your week?
My what?
We were talking about your week.
Oh well, you asked about what I was.
Yeah, I did ask
I
a bit
had,
more.
so that's I maybe went too in depth.
Yeah, it's great to hear.
We are saying hello to Ken, and Ken, we will get back to you in a second. First, you talked about the 4/4. I have it here too, and I haven't anything of these connected because I'm working on this one at the moment. So I haven't got any drum machines connected right now. And because Dan is here, I also have this one.
Okay.
The drum lock, but not connected. If anyone wants to hear them at some time, except for the LXR, which we are going to hear today from Kinkas, then let me know. Tim, how has your week been?
Yeah, I was about to say I haven't quite recovered because I went to Machina Bristonica, which is the closest equivalent we've got in the UK to Superbooth, which is 2 days in Bristol in the UK. But suddenly realised that it was actually 3 weekends ago, and I still don't feel I've recovered from that. So it was quite an event. Yeah, and then also been very busy work-wise. I've been zipping all around the country this week for work meetings, and I'm also rushing to try and get a whole load of sound libraries finished. I think I'm currently working on 6 different sound libraries simultaneously, so it's a bit mad. One of them is for the multipoly. Dan, I think you worked on that, didn't you?
Yeah, that's my baby. One of my babies.
Yeah, awesome machine. So
cool.
Loving that.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, I think I've played many of the things because I've got a Kronos as well. I think you worked on. Were you working on that?
Yep, worked on the Kronos too.
Yes. So but I have I have far too many Korg things. People have accused me of not being a real musician because of the lack of Roland and Yamaha stuff I've got, but I've got all this Korg stuff. So and since it's bring your drum machine to work day, so I've bought the Drum Brute Impact with me. So just
very nice.
For some odd reason gone into demo mode and gone all colourful. So so very busy here.
Yeah, and Ken, welcome to.
How are you?
To the show, and we need a little more power on your voice.
Oh, I'm sorry. It might be because I'm far away. Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, I'm kind of. Yeah, my setup is a hot mess right now, as I'm sure most of you can understand. Just doing different things.
Yep, that means you're working.
It gets a mess. This is actually after I've cleaned it, so
I can well believe.
Yeah, I spent 2 days of my vacation just cleaning my studio, and afterwards I was like, man, I need to clean my studio.
I'm actually doing that today. Been all morning cleaning up my studio too, Ken. I know
Yeah,
the feeling.
it's it's an ongoing process, but yeah. Now I'm sitting here on Korg's website right now, looking at the multi-poly native.
Oh,
It's very
Like, oh
good.
yeah, I forgot about that. I need to grab that.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of the best from you, Dan.
oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I really like it too.
yeah, yeah. So I'm using it. I don't have the hardware, but I have the plugin, and I really like it.
mm.
So how has your week been, Ken?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm just working. I'm just like the days are flying by at this point. I'm just it's just a lot of things going on. I just got back from a vacation, which was much needed. Um, and before that, just before that, I was out in California for a while doing some work. And so it's kind of like the last few months have been just a rush of a lot of different moving things, just getting stuff done and working on projects and whatnot. And so then we went on vacation, and it was nice because I took the kids up to Salem, Massachusetts. So we, you know, it was kind of a nice, like, we homeschool, so it was a combination of like vacation and school trip. So we got to learn a lot of the history of Salem and the witch trials and all that, and then went to Boston and did the whole Boston Tea Party thing and saw Paul Revere's house, which a lot of American history. So that was really nice, and the kids really enjoyed it, and everything went well, so that was good. And then made sure to leave some time from that vacation to come back and try to clean up my studio a bit because it's just been so busy that things just get way out of hand. And then I have severe ADD, so on top of that, the process of cleaning for someone with neurodivergence like that is difficult because it's easy to get overwhelmed, and it's also easy to get really really sidetracked down rabbit holes. And
Yeah,
as
go on
I'm
side quests, right?
yeah, and as I'm like cleaning out the studio and whatnot, I'm starting to think of like different signal chains that I want to do, and oh, I want to be able to do this, and I want to be able to do that, or oh, I set this up and I found that it just doesn't really actually work for me in that way, so I want to try to rearrange things. And currently, I'm sitting with my main setup. I want to say somewhere around 38 inputs, and it so like my mind starts thinking about like, well, how can I more efficiently utilize my inputs and my setup, and what can I remove from my setup has been a big sticking point in my head, because a lot of the times, like if I'm really busy with work, I'm not getting to use all of this stuff as much as I would like, and then I start feeling gear guilt, and I start like then when I'm enjoying myself and creating music and just wanting to enjoy the process of like maybe learning some new kit. Like I got the Oxy One MK2 sequencer a little while back, and that's a really deep product, right? So a product like that is not something that you want to just be like, oh yeah, I know it right away. No, like you have to use it a lot in order to really know it. So then it becomes this thing of like, well, what can I remove from my studio so that things are less distracting in here and that I can be a little bit more focused? Because when I'm actually creating music, I don't use a ton of gear. Like when I'm actually creating, usually the piece will involve like maybe 3 to 5 pieces of gear, and that's it. And that's for like all the parts and everything. But the problem is that oftentimes it's like, oh, well, I'm inspired by this piece today or that piece today, or I'm doing this or I'm doing that experiment, or hey, I want to, look into how this filter sounds with this oscillator and what happens if I do this. But a lot of it becomes sidetracking. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is trying to whittle things down and then once I've kind of narrowed it down, I have to work out the storage for everything so that everything is still accessible. I can pull it out and bring it into the studio, hook it up easily, and then also with that comes rerouting of my signal path. And I bought a bunch of new patch bays, and so I've got all these inputs, I've got all these patch bays, and now it's like the process of like, okay, well, make that happen, which is easier said than done. So that's been my situation lately.
Yeah. I know about a lot of the stuff you're talking about. I have ADD too, and yeah. And gear guilt. That's a word I haven't heard before.
Yeah, it's gluttonous to say it, but it's a real situation, especially if you work in the industry and you know you want to be aware of best practices and what works, what doesn't work, that kind of stuff. Like I'm a constant student of what other people are doing. You know what I mean? Like I think it's really important to stay aware and stay current of both new gear and vintage gear, because like there's stuff from the past that's not being done now that like there's a lot of things that we can still learn from and still pull from. So like I'm very hesitant to sell gear and to get rid of anything, because it's like, while I might not be using something now, you know, a year and a half or 2 years from now, that could be extremely relevant to what I'm doing. And the way prices fluctuate and the way things go, it's like, you know, that can be a real problem. So a lot of the times I hang on to stuff. And also I have a lot of prototypes in my studio, like a lot of gear that, you know, you should not be selling companies. Like I see it happen all the time, but like beta testers and whatnot, like you should not be selling prototypes on the internet. Like it's just not, it's not proper. Technically it's not even your gear a lot of the times. And also on top of that, it's like you're kind of putting a misrepresentation out into the field of a piece of gear, because usually just before production, even if you're at like a pre-production stage of a prototype, you know, things can change, you know, like little things can change here and there. It might be as small as like one little chip that could change how much something saturates or whatever, or maybe,
or even just a label on the panel, right?
Yeah, oftentimes a silk screen will change, or you'll have maybe a processor that is no longer completely compatible with everything. So maybe they've been building, you know, firmware for testing that eventually like that doesn't hold up over the long term of how things update. So, yeah, my wife doesn't love it. Bottom line, my wife does not love the clutter from that, but luckily she collects her own stuff, so I can complain about that and she can complain about this, and we're equal.
Yeah. I think we shall bring up that topic another time, Gear Guild.
I was just telling Henrik how I was happy today that I was able to get rid of a big mixer, because I added an extra ADAT extension here, so it added inputs, and that made room for my Syntrax 2, which had been in storage, and I was feeling super guilty to own such a nice synth.
Exactly.
And to not be using it. You know, now it's back in rotation, and oftentimes I'm like, oh, I really wish I had the Syntrax 2 set up and ready to go, but I don't have time. I have a deadline in 2 hours, and I would just have to use a soft synth, or I'll just have to use whatever is available right now. So I can totally relate to the gear synth, the gear guilt concept. I think you coined it well.
Yeah, we'll bring that up another time. Shall we talk a little bit about the history of drum machines? Does any one of you know when the first drum machine ever came?
Depends how you define it, right? Do you define preset rhythm boxes as drum
I
machines,
would, yeah.
or would you start with the programmable ones?
I would go back to like the organ, organ drum machines. Now I know, oh God, I'm so out of practice on this. I know of what the first one was. I can envision it in my head, but I don't know the name of it. It is a big, tall box. Oh God, I can't remember the name of that thing though. But there have been so many, and I know that Korg has a huge history in very vintage drum machines as well.
Yep.
I mean,
Roland,
way
when they
back.
were called A-Stone, also made a lot of those.
Is the tall one you're thinking of the Sideman?
It might be.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna run to the Googles.
Yeah,
The Maestro was one early one too.
Yeah.
So the Roland was 9 years later. Although, let's see. Wurlitzer Sideman, 1963. So
I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
the Donk-O-Matic, which was Korg's first drum machine, named because, and I'm not kidding, it goes donka 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 donka, was also 1963. That was Korg's first product, I believe.
Oh, Leon Theremin, of course it'd be Leon Theremin created the Rhythmicon, which seems to be listed as the first.
I would believe that.
Was it programmable though, or was it more like
no?
a synth?
I don't think so. But then it says the first commercially available drum machine was the Wurlitzer Sideman. So yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Made for Henry Cowell.
Yeah, right.
Oh, awesome.
But I know with a lot of these boxes that were made to sit beside organs that the Musicians Union then got involved and had them banned for live use eventually, so that they could be used at home, but they couldn't be used on the stage. But how things have changed.
And it makes sense. And it was an experimental piece, the theremin piece. Of course it was.
Yeah.
So Cowell, Cowell did polyrhythms and microtemporality, right? So
I tried to use ChatGPT to get a chronological list. It was impossible. So this is some of what it suggested. Can you read it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can ask AI, Suno or something to just make the beat you want and then give it to you in 30 seconds with fills and stems.
And all those lovely artifacts.
That's fun.
I know. In the 70s, they had some really interesting ones that I was fortunate to see in person at EMEAP, which is a music collection. I guess it's a museum, but it's so much more than just like one genre of like. It's not just synthesizers. Like the EMEAP started by collecting like Hammond organs and different organs and whatnot. So, but they've got like the Who's gear, they've got Pink Floyd's gear. Like the place is insane. Like you walk through it.
Gino Wong's, right?
Yes, yeah, Gino Wong works there.
He's great.
And it is. It is probably the most stunning collection I've seen in person in my entire life. I mean, you walk through it and it's just mind-boggling. I mean, everything from like Jimi Hendrix's guitar pedals to, Don Buchla's personal Buchla easel, and it's just stunning. Well, there they have some of these really vintage, like Echo Corp, computer rhythms, and just really. Like the design of these boxes, if you haven't seen them before, they're really cool looking, and they look like something out of like 2001: Space Odyssey or like, Clockwork Orange or something. Like they have that crazy like future retro aesthetic that is just really interesting. That kind of stuff I'm always like looking at, like, man, I wish somebody would do that today. Like these, like it's not practical, but. There's a lot of cool instruments coming out today that aren't technically practical, but they're inspiring. You know what I mean?
Sometimes the limitation itself is the source of inspiration, right? Because it helps you streamline, focus your creativity rather than give you so many options that you get lost in the sea of possibilities.
But the first drum machines, were they for organs, or were they? They were kind of trying to replace the drummer. or add a drummer for a man?
I think
Who
the
would play
organ in
alone?
general always had this concept behind it of replacing a full orchestra, right? So it makes sense that the first drum machine would be a part of the organ ecosystem, because you were also doing the bass with your feet, and you were doing like the horns with one manual and then strings with another. But then I think it very quickly became from being an attachment that you could stick under the keyboard and flip on and off to then becoming sort of its own unit and being able to be used separately. I think I do think it started as an organ thing.
I was going to say the very original one was the theatre organs, where they actually had in the, where these built, took up a huge amount of a theatre, and they actually had real drums in there that
Right, like an orchestrion, right?
were triggered by, particular notes being pressed and that kind of thing, and that's, astonishing to actually see them working. There's one in the museum in Berlin, the musical instrument museum. You can actually watch it actually working. But then, of course, I suppose the idea of the drum machine was to take that and make it, well, portable, really, I suppose.
Have you ever seen Pat Metheny's work called The Orchestrion, where he uses his guitar as a MIDI controller to control an entire orchestra, including all of the percussion instruments?
Yeah, and he has actually like a robot drummer.
Yeah. They're I forgot what the name of the electronic component is, but it's something that you can send a pulse to, and it actually moves.
An actuator.
I think it's called that, and it actually strikes, the drums at different intensities and speeds and stuff. So it's really robotic, MIDI controlled robotic orchestra. It's an interesting concept, but I don't know. I think
I got to go up on stage and help them out with some technical difficulties when they were in DC, and it was like he kind of like, I was trying to make sure that everything was working correctly in the worst possible way, like, so just all keys down and like make sure like everything sounded right. So I'm like mashing on the on the hydrogens, like, and he just comes on and he's like, "You're hired."
He thought you were playing free jazz, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's all it was, is free jazz right there. I mean, no wrong notes, right?
Which drum machines got you into drum machines? Which inspired you? Which ones?
Which one of us are you asking?
Yeah, I'll defer to the other people.
The first time you heard a drum machine, where did you hear it?
What was the Alesis?
SR16.
I want to say
SR16
or HR16, one or the other.
Right, HR.
I want to say it was the HR for me. The HR16. Was it the HR for me, or was it an SR? It might have been an SR, to be honest with you, because it was. I remember I was like maybe 12 or 13, and so this would have been what, 92, 93. And I remember the neighbor across the street from me, I was in punk bands and stuff at the time, but the neighbor across the street from me was much older. He was in his probably like late 20s, but had a band, really like a metal band. And I remember like he invited me over because he had heard, I was that irritating kid who would like have all the windows open and just be like mashing away on my guitar and just like, yeah, everybody could hear me. That's a good thing. No, it's not. But when you're 12, you want to be a rock star. And so he had heard, and he invited me over. And I remember going into his basement, and it was a full practice space studio. And it was like, oh, snap. Like, this is like legit. And it was the first time I had ever seen like a Rickenbacker bass in person. And like, it was just, they had really invested in it. And his drummer wasn't there, and he pulled out this drum machine and I was shocked at how real it sounded. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it was like, after that, I was like, oh, well, I know what I'm saving up for next. So it was a long period of, being 12 years old and trying to get a pro level drum machine at the time, and like, let me get that. So that was like the first one that I can really like. There was other stuff like Casio SK had drums in it and stuff, but it was like that was the first time where it was like I could actually use this for like practicing and songs, and it was primarily for practice, you know, which, you know, in my band we went through multiple drummers, and I know that we did at least a few shows where we used a drum machine instead. So yeah, good times.
I have similar.
I think most. I was going to say I think most bands have been through multiple drummers, but that's another story. Carry on.
Absolutely.
I think you and I are similar generation, Ken. For me, a cousin brought over a TR-505 once. So, you know, I'm post the 808, 909, 707 already. I was too young then. I'm 50 now, so. But then at some point, my stepmom had given me a remote control car from Toys R Us for Christmas when I was 12, I think, and it didn't work. So we had to go back to Toys R Us, and they didn't have a replacement one, so they gave me a voucher, and I saw a Yamaha PSS 480 keyboard. It had tiny keys, but that thing is amazing. It actually had a digital synthesizer with 5 memory banks in it, so I could create my own Van Halen jump sound on it. And when I got to Brazil is I'm Brazilian, right? I live in Mexico, but I'm Brazilian. And when I got back to Brazil is a very protective market. Import tariffs are ridiculous over there. You pay like 4 times the price of something. So nobody had anything as fancy as my PSS 480. So that got me started in bands. Like, people were interested in my keyboard, not so much my budding skills. And that thing had some like 100 different rhythms with pretty realistic drum sounds in it. You couldn't really program your rhythms much, but you know, in a way, it was a drum machine as well as a synthesizer. And you know, that thing was probably the first thing that I actually had myself, other than what my cousin had brought over. And then eventually, years later, when I finished music school, I actually went to free jazz music school. I went to New England Conservatory for the contemporary improvisation department. So, yeah, I was always into the more avant-garde, experimental kind of stuff. But at the end, I was like, how am I going to make any money with this? You know, I should probably like try to. And then I heard Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" record and realized that you can have that energy from free improvised music, that kind of organic, natural feel in pop music as well. So I started thinking I convinced my dad to help me make an investment in a small project studio when I finished college. And he got me an SP 808 by Roland, which was a sampling workstation. Kind of a similar idea to an MPC, but much more about phrase sampling. It wasn't really about one-shots so much, but I did use it kind of as a drum machine back then. But then when I got the MPC 2000 XL a couple years later, that was the one for me. And for about over a decade, that was my drum machine, basically. I still love that thing. I wish I still had it. I have the one now, and it's great, but there's just something about the older ones, you know. Maybe the fact that the display is so limited and makes you focus more on the performance and on the pads and things like that.
And that display was a big deal, though, because that was the first one that they did that had waveform editing on it. I remember that was huge.
That was advanced, yeah.
I came from I had an ASRX, and I didn't love programming on that, but I loved the sound of it. And before that, I had the MoFat, the MP7, which I absolutely love that thing. That was like, I remember being scared to get an MPC because I was like, it doesn't have sounds in it already, right? And I was like, I didn't know all the gear like that. Like I wore glasses, but I wasn't smart.
Well, it did come with a couple of floppies with like a basic.
Yeah,
sound
but
library.
but I was not buying brand new. Like I was broke. So, and I just remember I used to at the time I was in a rap group, and I the producer, I loved him to death, but like all his beats were very clean, and like I was more into like a dirtier sound, and I was like, I really want this dirtier sound, but I was too scared of MIDI. I was too scared of like sampling and not having sources and all that. Like it scared the hell out of me, because I felt like I was going to spend a bunch of money and not be able to do anything. And I had gotten the MoFat, even though we were working in the studio. The one guy had a SP12 and the other guy had a MPC. And the more I would visit the studio, I remember the main producer I was using, he used like I want to say it was the Yamaha RMX 16 or something like that. It was like a remixing box, and yeah, like a few other pieces. And he also used like the MoFat and stuff. But I wanted a dirtier sound, and he got a brand new MPC 2000 XL Special Edition, and it wasn't working. Because he tried to put RAM into it and didn't push it down far enough. So when he powered it on, it was just a blue screen, right? And it wouldn't power up. And I remember going to his studio every day, like, hey man, why don't you sell me that broken MPC? Why don't you sell me that broken MPC? Sure enough,
all you had to do is push in the RAM.
I got it. I got it home. I remember I've told the story before, but like I took out a biker loan because I didn't have any money for it, and I got it for like maybe $200, like, and
nice.
It was a $2,000 drum machine at the time, and I got it home and I opened it up and I started checking things, and that RAM went in. I was like, could that have been it? I turned it on, it was working. Oh, that was it. Like,
that's awesome.
I was so sucked in by that machine after that. Like I read every inch of that manual probably 5 times, like just to try to understand it, and like
it was a Tolkien novel, right?
Yeah, it was a thick manual, at least to me back then. Like, you know how like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, the woods I played in were huge, and then you go back and visit it as an adult, and it's like a little creek. Mm-hmm. But that's how it is to me now. Like I look at that manual and it was like so daunting, but that manual taught me MIDI. Like that manual taught me like the fundamentals of like electronic music production, because
that machine still has better MIDI implementation than most things coming out today.
I 100%
I was actually starting my career as a composer for commercial music. I was interning at a big studio in São Paulo in the year 2000 when I got my MPC. So I was already hanging out with other hip hop DJs, producers. And that's what got me, like, all of them had MPC 2000s and stuff. So I got mine, and everybody was into just sampling vinyl. And I was lucky that I was interning in a big studio that had a gigantic vinyl collection. They had a whole room that was basically all of the owners' vinyl collections put together. And they had one of those fancy transcription turntables with like weights and things. So I remember one day they didn't assign me anything, and I just spent the entire day with my MPC just going through that gigantic record collection and sampling. Like I was looking for jazz record drum solos so that I could get just a kick drum hit or a snare drum hit. And honestly, for the following probably 15 years, that was basically my sound collection for the MPC. Like I never needed anything more than what I did that one day of how do you say, like mining, like sound mining. And it was cool because then my MPC was my own instrument. It didn't sound like anybody else's MPC. That was the cool thing about the MPC, I think, too, and just sampling in general. What about you guys? Dan, what's your first experience with drum machines?
I think my first experience with one was a friend who brought over a 707, I think, TR-707, for some project he was doing. That would be Perry Grip, who is now known for various other things. But he's a fantastic musician, and he was doing some sort of, I don't even remember what it was for. But anyway, we had a 707, and I programmed that. And then I did a lot of kind of 1 or 2 man band things in late high school, but mostly college. And I had a drumulator, which I loved at the time, just with the stock sounds. So I would gig with a Drumulator, a JX8P, and a TX7, and a Mac Plus, and often a guitarist. The guitarist helped. So I would be singing and running the computer and playing keyboards and things. And I did professional drum programming, this very strange gig for a fellow who was producing kind of Vietnamese French chanteuse songs. Very strange gig. But I would be in the back
Cool.
of their, I think it was his wife's salon or something like that on this big Yamaha RX-5. And
Man, we
drum
should do
tracks
we
for
should
these
do
very
a show
sappy-
someday about everybody's like weird early professional experiences. That's so funny.
that was a strange one. And really after that, moving more and more into the computer, I started just using the Drumulator as a sound source. And then when I got samplers, I kind of stopped using the Drumulator. So I went directly to my Sonic EPS and EPS 16 Plus, and then other things. So I've always done more with I've never done very much with pattern-based sequencing. Occasionally I use it, but I'm more often doing things in a linear way. I started off with Digital Performer as my sequencer, so it was not a pattern-based sequencer, and that kind of suited my general take on things. I was going to music school at UC Berkeley and learning about composition there, so I was thinking of things as a through line anyway. So
I'm
it's a little
still
bit
with a weirdo that composes electronic music on Pro Tools for that same reason.
different.
I shy away from live, for example, because I think it kind of forces you into loop-based, grid-based kind of composing. So I agree with you. I usually perform as if I were a drummer, and then after the fact, I might quantize and clean things up and repeat some loops. But it's nice to compose it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think composing on the grid though made me very aware of how bad my timing is a lot of the times. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people that have like just an amazing internal rhythm that like just shocks me sometimes. Like, and it can be like fairly, man. There's fairly rudimentary things that I watch percussionists do that shock me, that I'm like, I can practice this all day, all night, and I don't have the clock for that in my body. Like, it's not that. Like, oh God, Kinkus would probably know the name, but there's an Indian instrument, I forget the name of it, but basically the practice for it, like, it's rhythmic tapping that you do.
Tablas.
Right? Yes, yeah, tabla. And when I watch practice videos of that, of like even at low levels, I am shocked. I'm like, I don't know how.
In India, when you start studying tablas, they don't let you touch the instrument for the first couple of years. You have to learn the solfege. So you learn the syllables.
Yeah, exactly.
And that goes like quintuplets and triplets and all sorts of subdivisions. And then finally the master will let you like touch the instrument. It's quite complex.
Yeah, that kind of thinking, right? And artists who train in that and have this, that in their body. It's like just in their DNA. And it goes for like multiple instruments. It's not just percussion, because you can hear it in like when I listen to like Hiromi play on piano, I'm like, holy crap! Like the rhythms that she will do, not just the melody, but the way she, inputs the rhythm of the melody. That kind of stuff always shocks me. So when I program drum machines, I'm a fan of that stuff, but I know that I can finger drum pretty well, but I know that the high level stuff, I could never finger drum that well, right? To be, even like David Finger Haynes and stuff like that. Like, it's not going to happen. So I will finger drum like the skeleton in, and then I will manually program in the other bits. And then one of the things that I loved from the MPC is that I would do Like my beats, most of my friends' beats, it would be like, okay, this is the bulk of the drums. Like it's all this 4-bar pattern, and that is what it is. And then maybe you have a different pattern for your hook, right? Mine, it's like always every 4 bars, my pattern is evolving in some way, and I would always like kind of like, you know, I never wanted 4 bars to be exactly the same, right? Which is sometimes not a good thing, to be perfectly honest with you. Like sometimes I need a piece of gear that forces me to be a little bit more calm, but that's kind of, you know, how I like to utilize the programming is, you know, do the skeleton parts manually and, you know, try not to quantize too much, that sort of thing. But then for the interesting stuff, that's where I'm usually programming things in more manually.
It makes sense too, because when you
Before
listen
we
to
continue, Kinkas, I have to present Creshat. Creshat is not going to show his face, but he is here, so he may join in at some time. And first, Creshat, present yourself.
Can you hear me okay?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm a disembodied voice tonight, so there you go.
The ghostly man.
Yeah, I'm the guy who wants to like stir the stick a bit. So here's my take on drum machines in the last 40 years. Look how far we haven't come. Haven't gone anywhere, have we? Really, in drum machines. In electronic drum tech we have, but in drum machines we haven't.
Oh, I don't know about that. I would say I disagree. When I look at the way that things like probability and like lots of interesting sequencing techniques that have been becoming, you know, that really kind of stemmed from more esoteric areas such as like modular or reactor or like, you know, these environments where people were kind of just experimenting around. A lot of those
polymetrics
things,
and random.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff that was kind of there in the subculture of music tech for a while is now finding its way into mainstream drum machines, and I think that stuff is really interesting to me. Now, sound-wise, you know,
sound-wise.
Sound-wise, as far as the raw sound.
How many drum machines have round robins? How many drum machines have? If you're going to put a hi-hat down, it doesn't sound like a hi-hat machine gun. Because they'll do it.
A lot now.
Yeah,
a lot now.
No, most of them are shit.
Well, I think the computer probably replaced that need from hardware for a lot of people. Like a lot of people will do that kind of complex stuff.
I still think you want an interesting hi-hat on a drum machine. You know, you don't give up the idea of interesting work because it's in a box.
I mean, you look at things like the stuff from Erica Synths, like the LXR, and you know, there's. I tend to use a lot of external sequencers now, where so like I'm pairing things, which is kind of a cheat because it's like the drum machine is the sound module and then the sequencer is its own thing. So like there's a little bit of that going on. But then when you look at things like S2400, for instance, MPC especially, like I mean, look at what Akai has done.
I think the MPC's got a lot of potential. But I'm not seeing it. Sorry, I'm not.
I see a lot of evolving aspects that are happening on, you know, because that to me is like almost like the most mainstream of mainstream drum machine at this point.
It could be the best drum machine because you got 8 velocity levels. You've got quad pads on it, so you could have different sounds per quadrant and one in the middle. But as yet, I've not heard anybody play anything on the latest MPC that sounds like a sounds.
Well, I'm not even talking about like just hardware specific of the latest MPC because really they've been doing it for a while. Where like they're including things like ratcheting, probability, stuff like that.
Well,
and then you look at things like
Electron.
like Electron's drum machines and the micro timing aspects and the trigger probability and conditions. That kind of stuff to me, like this is all fairly new to the drum machine realm of like a contained drum machine in the last like 20 years,
isn't it? The thing you're doing is you're programming it. You're not playing it. You can't play those nuances. You have to go. Well, if I'm on step 17, I need to do this, that. Then on step 18, I go off and do this, that, and that. You're not playing it. You're programming it.
It depends on how skilled you are, because you can absolutely, MIDI up your Alesis drum pads or whatever and go to town on these things. I've got friends that are phenomenal drummers, and sometimes I will plug them up with either my MPC or any of my other gear and just capture the MIDI from them and having them play into my drum machines. So
yeah, but they're usually triggering one sound, aren't they?
No, not always. And usually what it'll be is it's zoned mappings, and like you said, you can do round robins, but you can also do things where depending on what what machine you're using.
Does the Electron drum machines have round robin sounds then?
Mm-hmm. You can do not only that, but you can do probability of changing of sounds.
Oh, yeah. The idea of round robbing on Electron is you program a different sound per step. That's what you're saying, yeah. As a round robin.
Well,
it's not
round robin isn't necessarily per step either, though. Like, I mean, it would be
per velocity value too.
Yeah,
right?
and per velocity value.
Well,
yeah,
you can it's per trigger.
Per trigger would be more accurate.
On this trigger,
yeah.
I want to use this sample. On that one, I'm going to use another one. But you're not playing it, are you? You're not getting any. You can't just do it. You've got to map it out in your head and then put it in.
Well, I mean, that's like saying, you can't just play your piano. You have to tune it first. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, everything requires some level of setup, right? Like any instrument. Whether you're putting strings on a guitar or whether you're loading up samples into your drum machine.
You don't per hit work out where the drumstick is. You just play the fucking thing. So
you can do that though.
Why aren't we there with drum machines? Is my saying.
If you get a wave drum.
Yeah, but that's one sound.
Sure. Well, it's more than one sound, but it's not tied to a sequencer.
Yamaha pad on my acoustic kit that has like 3 or 4 different zones that I can assign to different sounds. So even I'll be playing the drums, but even on acoustic drums, you do, as a drummer, I can tell you, the way that I hit my snare drum, if I'm hitting it close to the rim, if I'm hitting it close to the center, if I'm hitting it as a rim shot where the stick first hits the rim and then the head, all of those can be very conscious decisions as you're playing. If you're playing ghost notes very softly. So all of
but you're playing it, aren't you? You're not programming it. You're just playing it, yeah, because you're a drummer. That's what I'm saying. Is on a drum machine, you've got pads and things. Why can't you just fucking play it and get that nuance as you're playing it? Why do I have to go into a menu and program it?
I think more than anything, we're talking form factor here, because at the end of the day, so let's say the new MPC, you've got zones on it. The new Push 3, you've got, you can kind of use the whole thing as one pad, really. And you can MPE across that. You've got the Roger Lynn devices. You've got, there's lots of different devices with levels of articulation that you can do to them, right? But when you're talking about a drum machine and you want it to be this compact device, right? Your playing surface is going to be limited, but how you approach that can be changed. So as I was saying before, you can absolutely have a drum machine and then map that to a digital drum kit. If you truly want to be playing, you can still absolutely do that, and you can map things all across. I think it's also a little bit, it would be unfair to be talking about drum machines without talking about digital drum kits, because they're kind of one and the same these days. You can program in sequences by straight up playing your digital drum kit.
I know. I've got one. I've got an got a TD30 drum kit.
Well, then what the hell are you talking about?
No. Well, what the hell am I talking about? Is I would like a drum machine with a TD30 or a TD50 or what's the latest one, the TD70, with its sequencer. That's what I would like. Yeah, where you have multi-sample drums in the drum machine, and from the get-go, it can sound interesting. I don't have to fucking program it; I just play it on pads or whatever.
I think you do have that.
MPC, for example, you can do that. You can
MPC.
But not yet. Like I said before, you have the potential of it, but I haven't seen any packs coming out that says.
I think you should try it then, because it's there. Yeah, it's absolutely
create the pack.
Like there's definitely multi-layered, multi-sample drum kits. I've made them from machine. Like years ago, I did a pack for machine that was deeply multi-sampled drum hits per pad on machine, and that was 2012 maybe 2011. Like, that's been existing for a while, and really that was just more than anything else, that was just a limitation of RAM, like previously, and RAM and CPU processing to trigger them in time. But that's been dealt with for years now.
I'm not seeing it on the MPC as a thing you get. I mean,
they're not cycle kit.
They're not demoing it at the moment, are they? I think the potential of the MPC is there, with the especially with the quadrant pads, giving you more than so you can hit different parts. You got different zones to play. So I think that is a good technological advance. But I'm not seeing. I mean, it's only been out a few weeks. Hopefully, someone's going to go in there and start making interesting drum kits, so that when you're playing the hi-hats, it just doesn't sound like the same thing over and over again.
I'm seeing a tutorial from 2023 about using cycle mode on pads. I'm not an MPC guy, but
yeah, you have. You got a round robin of back in the 2 and whatever days. You got 4 levels, and you can either cycle or you can change your velocity.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it that way. But there's not a lot. Most of the kits that you load up in MPC, that when it comes with it, they're just one hit. It's just a sample. I'm just saying that the things that you get with it.
The point of the MPC is, in my opinion, is to never use what comes. It's an instrument. It's a sampler, as much as it is a drum machine. So, I mean, creating your own sounds and your own kits and everything should, at least in my opinion, be a huge part of how one uses it. If you don't demo it,
how would people? They'd have to. It just seems a bit lazy by the people who bring these machines out. They don't.
Well, Akai hire us. Ken and Kinkas here are happy to create sound packs that are complex, as you describe.
I would just say that there are plenty of multi-sample drum packs out there. Like, yeah, I think that this is, if I'm just being bluntly honest, I think that this is a matter of, like, you just need to go out there and look, because this stuff exists. Like, it's very much out there. And you can play it both from pads and get lots of articulations from the pads, but you can also get this stuff from, MIDI controllers and whatnot. But then looking at things like Push 3 is incredible when it comes to the sensitivity and articulation. Like, it's literally, it blew my mind when, figuratively, because I didn't die. But you could, the pad sensors on that thing are literally so sensitive, it can sense your hand before you even touch the pads. And you can do some really cool stuff. And they have physical modeling in there as well. So where it's not just samples that you're having to switch between samples for articulation, but you can actually play in and use physical modeling to create the dynamic range there as well. And then there's kits that you can do where it blends the two. And then we also can't forget the idea of, like, loading in something like Battery along with it, or Geist, or any number of these other amazing software drum machines. So the dynamic range of those sorts of things is absolutely stunning these days.
But do we all need those options? I mean, if I use a drum machine, I want it to sound like a drum machine. Else, I would use a drummer.
Yeah, and that's the other side of it is, genre and style and use case all play into this. You know what I mean? Like, a techno artist may not want, different articulations happening every time. They may want, it to be this perfect 4 on the floor and this perfect sound, and then only have a change when I specifically want it here, and that sort of thing. So it definitely depends. And for not all, but a lot of hip-hop production especially, which is kind of like the bread and butter for an MPC.
You want the consistency.
There is a beauty in the consistent, simplistic loop. Like, there is, and it's the same with techno and many other genres, but there is, there's something special about the way when you find the perfect loop. It's like there's something special about that repetitiveness that layers in with the emotion of the MC on top of that.
Guys, I'm really sorry. As I was saying before, I'm tired because of these vaccinations, so I'm going to say good night. But it's fantastic talking with you all. Kinkas, very nice to meet you. Tim, nice to meet you.
Same, Dan.
All right.
Nice.
Always a pleasure.
Have a good rest.
Thanks.
Sleep well.
Bye.
Yeah.
How about Tim? We haven't heard from Tim about his first experiences with drum machines.
Yeah, because I got into synths a bit late, so I only started learning piano and playing synths when I was 18. So before that, I wasn't particularly aware of drum machines and which tracks had drum machines and which tracks had real drummers, apart from perhaps the mini pops on Jean-Michel Jarre's early albums. And that was sort of caught my attention because it's so different. It's like, what is that? And then when I was 18, I became the engineer of a band, and they were using the lead singer had a TR-626 drum machine, and that's what he used to make the tracks sort of in the studio. But unfortunately, he'd blown all his money on studio time, so he needed money desperately. So he sold the drum machine to me. So that was my machine, because I had my synth I got at the time was an Ensoniq ESQ1, but that didn't have drum sounds on it. They only added those in the SQ80. So I didn't have drum sounds. So I got the 626, and that sort of that was for many years. That was my music system, was the Ensoniq and the Roland drum machine. And then I got the.
You didn't do all your drum programming on the SQ80? It's got drum sounds.
No, I didn't have it. I had the ESQ1.
Oh, SQ1. Okay. I was gonna say, the SQ80 has some really cool drum sounds in it.
Someone got the speakers on the way because I'm hearing my voice coming back at me. So unfortunately I had the ESQ1. So then I got a Korg 03RW, and that had drum sounds actually in it. So I actually and they were better than the 626. So I tended to use that, and ended up giving my 626 away, which I regret, to the guy who played guitar live. So I needed drums. So that was my early drum experience, and then I haven't actually owned a drum machine until I recently got the Drum Brute Impact.
Those are nice. I had the original Drum Brute for a while.
I think the Impact, I stand by the fact that I think the Impact is probably the best bang for buck drum machine you can buy today. It sounds so good. Like, that kick is phenomenal. Like, the Impact is very different from Drum Brute 1. Like, Drum Brute 1 is kind of like a best of collection of like 808 and like CR78 and even some Korg drum machine sounds. It's very vintage sounding. Like, it's very like true to that stuff. So you have to really kind of desk process it a bit to pull out the goodness. But the Impact is like more modern. It's very punchy and upfront and in your face.
Yeah.
Should we hear some real audio?
Sounds like Henrik playing his synthesizer.
What have we got?
I know Kink has got something, and you have something, Tim. And I'm sure Ken has something too, but I'm not sure it's... he said before, everything is connected.
I was just going to say, of course, although that's the only drum machine I own at the moment, if I could own any drum machine, it would be the Perkons that's behind King Castle, because it's such an awesome machine.
I have my Perkons as part of my, a lot of people that share my profession. I compose for series, movies, commercials. Like, they might have fun with these hardware things, but when it comes down to business, it's all in the box. Especially because clients will have, immediate requests for changes and things, and if you don't have instant recall of all your presets and everything, it becomes difficult sometimes. But I still insist on going old school sometimes and use hardware, and the Perkons in particular is certainly a source of sounds. I might use it without the internal sequencer when I'm doing composing work. I just use MIDI and control the voices, and I also send the voices because it's got a mono output with a built-in compressor. That sounds really nice for live work, but it's nice also to have the individual outputs so that you can mix them in stereo and process them separately and everything. If you guys would like, I could start with a little bit of a demonstration of my Erica machines. I have two of them right here, which are my favorite drum machines in my studio. Well, no, I can't say that because I do have my MPC one, which I also love. But I mostly use these two guys, The LXR02 is a very different beast. because it's digital, but the synthesis engines on it are way more complex and capable than the Percons. The Percons is quite limited. It sounds amazing, but it's a narrower range of variation that you can get from it. Whereas the LXR, you can get some very out of this world sounds. So maybe I'll start with the Percons a little bit. And what I love about the Percons most of all, and let me maybe move my microphone to this table so that as I'm facing the drum machines, you can still hear me okay, right? It's a little bit in front of the Percons there. There we go. So what I really love about the Percons is how hands-on it is, because there's very differently from the LXR. It's a much more portable machine, so it's got that going for it. But you do have to go, hit each voice and then each parameter, and then use the 4 knobs here. It's still pretty intuitive because the display will show you what the 4 knobs can affect. But it's just not as immediate as this thing. So the sequencer has a single row for each instrument. There are only 4 voices, so you don't have to be switching the sequencer between voices when you're programming it, and that's also very nice, because you can immediately you can perform your programming, if that makes sense. Your programming can be performative in the sense that you're by pressing the step buttons in real time as you're performing, you're changing that. Sorry, that's the doorbell. I'm sure somebody will go get that. So why don't we start creating a little pattern here? And each voice has its own programming section here too. So again, you don't have to press a button to choose which voice you're going to edit, and then edit it. And it's one button, one knob per function, pretty much. But each voice is a little bit dedicated to different things. So where they change is in the algorithms and modes for the main oscillator for each voice. So the first 2 are more focused on kick and tom type sounds, and 3 is more of a snare focused voice, and 4 is more hi-hat. I think I might have 3 and 4 flipped. We'll find out. I haven't used it in a little while, but I just hit start right here, right? And now it's had an update where you can actually sample. One of the algorithms on one of the voices can be an internal sample, right? So this thing has a compressor, built-in compressor in the output here, which I have going quite heavy here. So let's turn that down for now. No compressor. It also has, well, maybe we want a bit of a compressor just to hear it a little louder. You also have an effects send per voice here that controls this built-in bucket brigade simulation, right? And you can have it short like this, or you can have it long, right? And there's an LFO, a dedicated LFO with mod depth for that delay.
Okay, guys, can you adjust the focus so it's not autofocus, because it keeps focusing?
It's focusing on me, right? I'll just move.
Yeah, you on the microphone.
I'll just move.
Yeah, that
and center it, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps if you can move the microphone a little further away.
Closer to me, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps
like this.
Yeah, it's better.
It's gonna fall off. Hold on.
Yeah.
I think this might work.
Yeah.
The drum machine might wobble, but it don't fall down.
Right. Yeah, I brought it a little bit closer too. So. Okay. So the voice number 1 here, you have there's a drive, right? So I can bring the drive down. and there are two parameters that are variable depending on which algorithm and mode. So there's 3 algorithms available for each voice, and each algorithm has 3 modes. So that's the digital part of the voices, right? Let me turn this up a little bit more. There's a analog filter, which can be switched between low pass, band pass, and high pass. And there's the effect send and the individual level for each voice. So now it's too soft. Let me turn that up a little bit here. That's too loud. There we go. All right, so for now I'm going to turn off the global effect send there, so we're not distracted by that delay. And I have the tune, of course, right? And this is where I have some fun, because you can control this with MIDI. So I'll often create like a bass line using this 808 type kick, but have it be pitched, have it change according to the song. So that's nice. Right now I'm on algorithm 3, mode 1, right? So then the parameters here, it seems like parameter 1 is a pitch envelope amount, right? So if I bring it down, you get more of a static pitch. Parameter 2, or maybe that's the amount and 1 is the time, right? Here, let's go to algorithm 1 here. This one, I think parameter 1 or 2 might be like an FM. Yeah, I don't want to distort it on the interface there. Yeah, this is a pitch envelope as well. Yeah, so parameter 1 here seems to be like a pitch FM, see? And then I have the filter here, I can cut off some of that and then bring up some harmonics again by adding drive to it, right? And make the decay a little shorter. Maybe tune it down, right? Oh, let's go to algorithm 2 here. There's mode 2, algorithm 2, mode 2. So it ends up being a lot of variation, especially considering that each voice has a different set of algorithms and modes. So there's still quite a lot of variation that's possible. But it's still limited enough to be inspiring in that sense, that it doesn't distract you too much, and you can kind of easily find your sound. So now let's make it a 4 on the floor here. The sequencer, the way I have it set up, and that's a preference you can choose, is you can have one hit on the sequencer step gives it an unaccented note, and a second one gives you the accented note. So that means you can have 2 levels of volume, right? Of dynamics. And you have a tempo knob, which is great. I love having a tempo knob and just being able to speed it up and slow it down. You can also do tap or synchronize it to something external if you like, obviously with MIDI, right? So now that's faster, maybe we want a shorter decay and a lower tune. I think I might be distorting a little bit for you guys. Let's turn that down a little bit. Maybe let's turn down the compressor amount here.
I think the level was fine.
Yeah? Okay, maybe only I'm hearing a little too loud, everything from my end. Okay, so here we have the kick drum going, right? And then the second voice can be a number of things, right? I'm just kind of randomly programmed something here. Some of these algorithms are physical modeling, like Harpa Strong style. Some of them are like, classic synthesis FM. And it's fun because you can kind of just play around without really knowing what you're doing until you find something you like. The two parameters will change their function depending on what algorithm and mode you're using. And another cool thing is that you can program these changes on the sequencer, right? So for example, if I stop here, you can also, there's a trigger button for each voice. So I can also program the voice by just triggering.
Kinkas?
Yes.
Let's keep it in small parts so we can bring everybody in.
Yeah, okay. So that's the basic gist of it. And then when it's my turn again, I can talk about the LXR a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Let's bring in the others. So, that's a better view. Yeah.
Sorry for hogging the stream, folks.
No, I was just enjoying listening to it.
And Ken, you were walking around and connecting something. Did you connect?
So I decided I wanted to update that while I was doing it. That's the push 3 there, but because I was going to show something, then I was like, oh, I forgot. I took down my cameras because I've been rearranging things as I was saying. But yeah. Come back to me.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Kinkas about this one?
I like the sounds. Very, very drum synthy, aren't they? They're very organic sounding.
Despite the algorithms being digital,
it
is going through analog filter drive VCA, so it does have a very warm sound.
Well, I will say, with talking about like analog drum machines and versus digital and all that, one of the things that through my own path, and this is pure opinion of what I like to hear and that sort of thing. Like I kind of went through this whole period of like, okay, well, like I got really into sampling drums and record digging and then creating my own sounds with found sounds and sampling stuff, that sort of thing. Don't make me full screen. I prefer to be small. But no, one thing that I was thinking about is like, we see like the new TR-1000 and, there's other high-end drum machines out there, Hex drums, and other really nice analog drum machines. And I think that stuff is great. I think that there's a reason for it. But I will have to say from my own personal path, like I use both analog and digital drums in my drum modules, and in just drum machines in general. And I got to say, like, drum modeling in digital, I don't think is like, it's not as critical as something like when you take like a digital synth, right? And you're modeling up the filters and the saturation and all these like little details to get it right. Usually a drum sound we're talking is like maybe 230 milliseconds or like 600 milliseconds for like a longer sound, that sort of thing. Like these are very short sounds, and usually they make your speaker cone go in and out at a rate, and that's that, right? The Roland TR-8, for instance, the kick on that sounds huge, and it's completely digital, right?
Well, I think the digital technology has caught up enough to where it's almost indistinguishable. Probably indistinguishable.
Yeah, and kind of what I'm saying is like to me now it's more like UI, right? It's user experience, even UX, like how we interact with the drum machines is bigger to me than like, when somebody, I used to just drool over the fact of like, oh, I'm going to have an analog drum machine. And that was like, you would drool over that because it was really not accessible for a long period of time. And now it's like both digital and analog drum machines are pretty prevalent in the market, and you can kind of get both for a decent amount of money. And yeah, I gotta say, man, like more often than not, I'm finding myself like, it doesn't matter at all if it's analog or digital. Like it really, like it's just about the user experience, because the sound is so good with the
Yeah.
with digital ones, like, you know, and oftentimes I'll prefer how the digital kick or something will sound. Like the ModBap Trinity module is like one of my main kicks now, and you know, and the snare. I actually don't love most analog snares. The hex drum snare, which is the, you know, the mutant snare from Hex Inverter, that's one of my favorite analog
They're good in
snares.
layers, I think. I think when you, in fact, that's another thing that we haven't talked about. Most like big time producers that use drum machines, they will not just use the one sound. Everything's layered, sometimes
Yeah,
many,
absolutely.
many, many layers to make. So you're hearing that one snappy snare on that Taylor Swift song. It's not, you're not going to find that as one preset in one drum machine. That guy probably used like 4 different sounds and then processed them differently, mixed them differently, panned them in a certain way, added effects. You know, that's a big issue right there as well. It's like
And
not
that's
one,
something that,
yeah.
you know, going back to the 2000 XL and all that, that was like the first thing I would do is like I would sample one kick, and then I would layer it with like an 808, or I would layer it
Exactly.
with something else. Like, and I always did my samples in kind of like frequency spectrums. Like here's my high end of it, right? Here's the body, and then here's that low end piece. And I would always, you know, because you could layer 3 samples on the 2000
Yeah, and
XL.
you can compress
So
them and do many things to
exactly.
them separately.
And even now with, like, you know, with drum machines, analog drum machines and all that, and a lot of modules will do that automatically. Like Trinity does that on its own. Like it has, you can stack all 3 drum voices at once, and you can technically, you can do 12, but whatever. But you can stack your sounds together because that's part of that sound design, right? So you can actually say like, okay, I have 3 different engines running at once, and I want them all to hit together. And then you have like a further layer where you can split the timing out. So like if you want them to kind of like stagger as they hit and that sort of thing, and flam, and you know, all those sorts of things. It's really useful. But yeah, I mean, that's, layering is key for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say my hot take on this was that, and this links to synthesis as well, because I talked about the Sonic ESQ1, and I had people say to me, the piano doesn't sound much like a piano. And all the way through, you know, history of synthesizers, they've tried to reproduce real instruments. Even, you know, you go to the CS80 and there's preset buttons on there for oboe and clarinet and things like that, and it's and they didn't sound good either. And you know, especially through the 90s, there was this huge push to get synthesizers and drum machines to
With the
sound as
Romplers,
close to the real thing as possible. And, you know, I think since then there's been this move, and the Perkins is a really good example, that, you know, synthesizers are now allowed to be synthesizers and make sounds that you haven't heard before, and drum machines the same. You know, it's like we've mentioned the TR-1000, that's come out, and their first thing they say on it is, it has the sounds of the 808 and 909. It doesn't say, well, we've got all the sample memory in here now, so you can have perfectly, you know, realistic sounding drums on it. That's not their
Right.
advertising. So it's interesting
Especially
how things
because
have
if you
changed
want
around.
really realistic drum sounds nowadays, you probably just want to use a computer, you know?
Yeah, you just
You
get
just have
samples.
a multi-layered Abbey Road drums on Contact or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you get something realistic there. But it still doesn't touch a real drum set. You know, like it's interesting what you said. It's no keyboard ever, still to this day, 2025, with all the physical modeling and all this tons of ROM, I haven't heard a single fake piano that really convinces me and sounds like a true acoustic. And the same with drums. I mean, you can get close enough to pull it off for production, but there's just something about those strings vibrating simultaneously within one resonant.
Did you watch there was a video a while ago talking about digital pianos, probably a year or 2 years ago, where they blindfolded people in a Japanese store, which was selling digital pianos and real pianos, and they took them up to each one and they played them, and every single person could identify a digital piano versus a real
Absolutely.
piano. Even digital pianos that are, I think there's a few Rolands, high-end Roland ones, where they've got a proper soundboard and loads of speakers, so
Yeah.
so it should move the air like a real piano. They went, nah, it's a digital one. And every single person got it right.
I know.
So you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
the same
it's
with drum
hard, isn't
set
it?
too. You know, even when you're triggering like physical model drums with with sticks and everything, there's just something about when you hit a tom and you hit another tom and they're both vibrating at the same time in a room. They have sympathetic vibrations against each other, and they make the snare vibrate a little bit, and even the cymbal react. It's very subtle. But those very subtle nuances are perceptible, and we might not be able to name them and tell you why, but you're hearing
Did you
something.
see the interview with Thomas Dolby?
I have not.
Right, there's an interview with Thomas Dolby, not sure, about a month or 2 months ago. And he's now working in a music university. And he says, as good as all the amazing sample packs you have for amazing string sections or blah, 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 all the different orchestra things, he says, they will never, it's impossible to get anything. You will always tell a sample pack based orchestra over a real orchestra, because a real orchestra has a string section next to the horn section, next to the percussion section. So the thing you just talked about, where you've got two drums next to each other and they resonate off each other, that's the same with an
sympathetic
orchestra.
Vibrations. The instruments affect each other.
That's the thing you don't get in sample packs, according to him.
Yeah, eventually maybe that will be worked in.
There are definitely sample packs that have that. However, generally speaking, when you're doing that, you're combining samples with something like physical modeling or something. It's usually a hybrid approach. There are there's clever ways of doing sample switching to do sympathetic resonance with. I've been involved in some piano libraries and whatnot where you do this, but it's a lot of programming to do it that way, when realistically, if you do it with something like physical modeling, like if you look at, for instance, Roland has their V stage and like their V piano series, that's kind of specifically what they're doing with their pianos, with their digital pianos, is that's the big part of that technology. And that was, many years ago when they first started doing that, when they first started kind of recognizing, like, hey, this is something that's missing.
Yeah, and there's the tiny imperfections too, like even the three notes, the three strings that are struck together and should be like, the piano tuner spent hours there trying to get them to be exactly like. Once you've struck that twice or three times, it's already, one of them's gone a little bit out. Like that's the one thing. I have a real marimba here. I have a real drums. I have a real bassist, trombone, cello. I try, when I compose, I always try to add at least one layer of something real, which helps fool the mind. So if I can't play an entire orchestra by myself, but I might use really high-end samples, and then add 2 or 3 takes of me actually playing a cello on top. And that
it's a bit like a magic trick, isn't it? You're trying to put a bit of a gloss on the top of something to convince you that what you're doing is real.
Exactly. And even when I program drums, sometimes I'm not Jojo Mayer, but I can play drums fairly well. But sometimes my kick drum isn't so precise and so punchy, so I will program perhaps the kick part, and then I'll sit behind the drum set and just take off the kick drum pedal and just play the cymbals and snares and toms and everything. And overall, when you hear back the result, you won't be able to tell necessarily that the kick drum is false. So there are tricks you can use. The same with the trombone. I might do horns, and then I'll play some real trombone, tune a little bit with Melodyne because I suck at trombone. But even a poor real trombone is better than only fake one, in my opinion. I have found out. Even a poorly performed fake instrument has more character and realness to it than something that's just completely. But that goes back to Tim's idea, because the whole problem there is trying to be something that you're not, trying to make something that isn't pass for something else. So once you accept that a drum machine is a drum machine and it's not trying to sound like real drums, that's where the beauty of the drum machine can come through, in my opinion. Is like, don't try to make it sound like
it's like
drums.
synthesizers. You can make a synthesizer sound like a real piano, or you can make it sound like a synthesizer. That's the same with a drum machine, isn't it? It depends what the song's calling for, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
what you're
exactly.
after.
Or the genre is, or what the context is. It's an interesting discussion.
Yeah, Chris said I didn't have a chance to answer your question when you said about the development of the drum machine over 40 years. And when I look at the recent drum machines like the TR-1000 and the drum log, it seems that the main development over the last 40 years is that they've become less colourful. We've now got to black and battleship grey and
They were very colourful, the previous version, weren't they? All lights, singing and dancing. They're like, I think we'll tone that back down again.
yeah.
Well, the Percons, my version at least, is a very nice Russian.
You can get that in different colours, can't you? The Percons, I think.
It's only black, and I think now they only have the black version. I was lucky enough to have acquired one when it was still this. I call it Russian Space Control Station Blue.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you seen the Crick synthesizer from Future Sound Systems? Because that's also in blue. And when he took it to Super Booth, people were saying, "Can you do it in black?"
Yeah, and everybody wants in modular, right? Everybody wants black or silver, and some people will actually base their acquisition decisions on if the module is black or silver. They might love the sound of a module, but their entire system is black and the module is silver. So unless the manufacturer or somebody can make the black panel for you, you're just not going to buy it. You know, and I represented a brand for a long time, a Brazilian brand called V Brazil Modular, where he had chosen red. All of his modules are red, and it's a beautiful system. It sounds amazing, but I think it really took a hit on sales and wasn't as commercially viable as it could have been because people wouldn't want to have like one sore thumb, red module in the middle of their entirely black or silver system.
I think colours in synthesizers and drum machines are really cool, but you also want a bland version for the people who do not want the coloured version. Because I know there's a Casio digital piano that's like mustard yellow, and as nice as it might sound, it's mustard yellow. No, I don't want it. Give me a black version.
It's bold. It's a bold statement.
Yeah. Weird, isn't it? So it's a weird that some of your buying decisions might be stalled because of how it looks rather than how it sounds. Because at the end of the day,
I'm having a look at my bass guitar collection here, and I think definitely a lot of my purchase decisions there were based on how these instruments look, not just how they sound.
My bass guitar here looks like wood, so just.
Let me give you a quick glimpse.
Oh, okay. Ooh. And I'll get bass envy.
Yeah, I've got two basses.
Oh, I'm on my camera. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
That's the Fender rack over there.
Oh,
nice.
Or it's all Leo Fender designs from his 3 different companies, being Fender, G&L, and Music Man. Sorry to distract us from the theme. But yeah.
So I just wanted to show this real quick. This is really just for Chris. So this is on push 3, and this is a stock kit that you just load up in it. You don't have to do anything, like he said. You don't want to be programming stuff all the time. Well, this is an MPE kit, and it is deeply.
You will get a full screen now.
I don't want that. You see my trash can? So, but basically, and I know everything's blown out here. I can also. I'm a big boy. I'm a real boy now. So can we get any kind of? It's going to be blown out regardless, so you can't see the colors of the pads. But bottom line is, depending on where I hit on the pad, how hard I hit on the pad, and the motion of the pad, I can get totally different articulations.
So you can actually perform, not just program these variations, right?
And yeah, you can.
And that's
Yeah,
not
that's more
just
like
a
it.
volume variation; it's actually
No, yeah, it's
multi-sampled.
totally different sample switching, and you can also kind of like if you listen to this tom.
Yeah, even the pitch goes up as you hit it harder,
Exactly.
which would happen on an actual instrument
as you-
because
as
you
you
And
go
can
that's not
through
stretch
just
the
the
that's
rhythm.
just
skin
not
farther.
that's not just hitting it harder. That's also where I'm hitting as well.
Yeah.
So you
Uh-huh.
can be sample switching and pitching. So
So
you can.
it's doing a similar thing to the Roland V drum kits, then, isn't it?
Yeah,
But on a
or
on
the
a,
least
Yeah.
on a
one.
64
So
pad
this
thing.
So technically speaking, the push 3 surface is really it's all one surface. It's not just individual pads, but then they divide it up, right? So you
That's
can
zoned. I got you.
you can do things like depending on how each kit is set up and whatnot, you can do some things like you can be dragging across and pulling a sound, stretching the tuning and doing different things. And it works for melodic sounds as well. But for the drum machine aspect of it, the playability of it is extremely high as far as how articulate you can get. And then of course, if you don't like the mapping, you can change your mapping around. Like this, I just loaded this one up as a stock one just to be like, hey, look, I didn't do anything to this at all.
Yeah.
This is what it is. But usually I change the mapping because I like my hi-hat to be a certain place and my kick to be a certain place and that sort of thing.
You know, my only critique of instruments like that, and I have the instrument which I love,
Mm-hmm.
which also has vertical, horizontal, pressure, sensitivity, like 5 different parameters, and it's wonderful for performing melodic instruments with articulation. Like I can play a cello that's very convincing because the articulation is convincing. So it kind of tricks the mind. Maybe the sample isn't perfect, but the fact that I can do a natural hand vibrato and crescendo and glide into the next note, all of those things that you can't perform accurately on a keyboard, they trick the mind to believing it's an actual cello. But same with the push and with this, compared to the surface area of an actual drum, when you it's impossible to be as expressive and accurate when you're talking about a little 1 centimeter square. That's my one thing. Like, I wish somebody would make a giant instrument.
Yeah, no,
where
I
could
totally
play with
agree.
my
That was
entire hand like moving like this, and
that's
things
probably
like that.
one of the biggest things that I struggled with on push and a little bit on force, but force's pads aren't nearly as expressive, so it's not really the same sort of programming issue. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, so oftentimes I'll MIDI up to an MPC or something to
Right.
use those pads for that. These pads are just so much better than anything else. My only gripe is the division of the pads. It's like they're small, but then it's like, but of course, if everything was big, then the controller would be massive. It's already huge. It's already like wide and deep and whatnot. So it's like,
could you
Yeah.
program like 4 of those pads just to be the snare, so you got
yeah,
multiple to play
absolutely.
with?
Matter of fact, there's kits that are whole kits where all of the pads are nothing but snare.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there's
So-
and
somebody's
that's and
mentioning
those are like
that-
factory kits in here. Like if I go in here, so these are all just like factory kits. I'm scrolling through, and these are all multi-sampled MPE kits here.
Somebody in the
um,
chat got me curious, saying that Kinkus Needs That Thing and the Synth Addict has sometimes waved around that I forgot the name of.
Oh, the A-frame.
The A-frame, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let me take note of that.
Yeah. It's really good. It's very
So
odd
this-
looking, but it's really good.
So this right now,
Oh, that's like just the snare drum.
these are all different snares, and it's all completely MPE and how you play each. So I can go. That's all one
Cool.
pad right now.
Yeah, that's cool. That is.
But then I can go down here, and I'm pitched.
Yeah.
I think the idea, though, would be that the entire surface become like a single pad, where with minute variations depending on.
Well, that's
where
kind of what
on
this
it
is.
you're playing.
That's kind of what
Okay.
this is. It's going pitch and articulation, but also it does do sample switching as well.
Mhm.
But it's treating this as if it's all one snare drum. So
That's very cool.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Have,
and you
have
can
you?
do there's all different styles in there too.
Has anyone laid their hands on the new MPC? Because apparently the pads are supposed to be really sensitive.
I've heard of that too. It's MPE
So the
now. Yeah.
the difference on that is that it's like the pads are essentially 4 pads in one pad. So each like and that's how the sensor is laid out. Like the sensor is like 4 individual quadrants underneath of each pad, and then it's using pressure sensitivity to see in between the pads, so that you can kind of smoothly go between them. It's really nice. Like it's a very cool thing. It's not as crazy complex as this is, as far as like the sensitivity and all that stuff. But it's, in my opinion, it's a huge step up for that for the MPC range, and just for that style of sampler, as a whole, it is really impressive.
I might have to get that thing.
Yeah, it's and for the money, like honestly, if you look at it, they're like $1,600 now, and again, I'm gonna speak from a place of somebody who just had the life and soul sucked out of me by the tax man. I'm looking at it like, I could probably get like an industry discount or something and pull some strings like that. But truth is, I'm gonna wait like 4 or 5 months, and those things sell so well and to so many people. The used market on NPCs is crazy. So I'm like, I'll wait and I'll cop one used, and I'll be a very happy man. So like I use the Force a lot, Akai Force, and that didn't get like huge traction in the community, but it's actually a really cool device. I really like a lot of the things that it does. And basically the new the new MPC software from like 3 point whatever on is essentially the Force firmware. Like it works the same as the Force does now, which is really cool to me, because I love, to me, that method of working. It's like this weird hybrid MPC / Ableton Live kind of workflow, and what it allows you to do is basically capture your own instrumentation and put it in as samples really easily, whereas the MPC, you kind of have to stop doing things to do a lot of things. Like you have to stop your music to do a lot of your editing, and on the Force it kind of feels like you don't really have to stop as much. Like you can kind of keep in that flow, which is pretty nice.
And you're saying that with the update, the flow should continue then?
Yeah,
it's more Force like now.
It's way more like live performance oriented.
I'll just sell my MPC one. And
I actually just updated my Force to the latest firmware, like the 3.6, and got what they're calling the Pro Pack, which is on sale now for like $99. It's normally $200. And a pro tip here: put it in your cart, right, and then try to navigate away from it, and it'll give you another $10 off. So I actually got it for $89. So, but that adds. Adds like a bunch of extra stuff, like so now there's like stem separation in your sampling, but one of the really cool things that it adds is the clip launching, and all that stuff is the same. So it basically, you can put the newest software of the MPC and all that stuff that the MPC 3 is doing onto the Force, and the MPC kind of is doing 64 pads in a 16 pad square, because it's four pads underneath of each pad, right? Yeah. Well, the Force is all 64 pads are just separated out there. So you really kind of have access to almost all the same stuff just in a Force.
Have you guys checked out that Yamaha finger drumming thing that came out like a couple years ago?
FGGP50. Yeah, I've got one.
That's meant to be, it's shaped like your hand.
It's like circular pads, right?
Yeah.
And it's two per instrument, so you can do rolls of the same instrument with two fingers and stuff.
It's got 25 pounds.
I was interested in that as a performative finger drumming interface.
It's good fun. It's a fun device. I would say the downside on it is I wish there was a pro version of it, so you had better connectivity on it. You just got like a headphone out and an audio in, and you've got a micro USB as a connection. You don't have any proper MIDI.
Right.
So you're gonna have to rely on your USB from for your MIDI connections.
I think they were
it
just
sounds-
testing out the concept, right, to see if they developed
Yeah,
it further.
there are lots of sounds in it, and by default, all the humanize function is switched off on all the pads. So you've got to go and switch them on yourself, which I find a bit weird. Then the humanize will do that sort of changing the pitch and changing the timbre of your pad slightly to try and make it more interesting. But it doesn't sound like a drum kit. It sounds like a pretty good drum machine that you're playing with your fingers, but it doesn't quite do the drum kit feel.
Right.
Just to be upfront about it. Just don't expect it to be drum kit.
You know, a few
sounding
years
like
ago, I just gave up on trying to do that and just picked up some sticks and some lessons and some cymbals and just learned to play the fucking drums.
Yeah, just do it, as they say, for real.
I've got my drum kit in the corner there, and I am hot trash. I am hot trash on drums.
Yeah,
but I still enjoy. It's nice. It's nice now
fun
that
though, isn't
like.
it?
We gotta hear that, Ken.
You know what I found out?
You don't gotta hear that. I use it for sampling. Like I'll sample up the kit, or I'll bring in a friend who is a good drummer, and I'll set up, and then I'll sample them, and then I'll do that kind of stuff. But like when I'm actually playing myself, like I practice like the basic stuff, and I'm terrible. But I'm at the age now where my kids are old enough to properly ridicule me, and it's great. So it works out.
You know, there's some tricks I can share there too. You know how on Pro Tools you can, or in other softwares as well, you can do quantization of audio recording. But what it never gets right is the cymbals, right? So whenever you hit a cymbal and then the program is trying to stretch it and fit it in time, you get these weird artifacts and it sounds like crap. But for short sounds, it does pretty well. So oftentimes I'll just play, and what I'll do is I'll do it in layers. So where I'll play just closed hi-hat, snare, kick, and toms, and I'll do my best to resist. If I have to, I'll remove the cymbals, And that track I will quantize if I have to, if I need it to be very precise. And then I'll add a layer where I'm playing only the cymbal hits and the right cymbal sections and everything. And that's a way to get the real drum sound and have it be very precise when you're not a super precise drummer yourself. And just don't play cymbals. That's the idea. Or rather, play the cymbals afterwards, and then you can move. If you you've hit the cymbals off time, then all you have to do is just edit and line it up. But don't try to time stretch cymbal sounds. It sounds like crap.
No, I totally agree. Like, really high frequency content as a whole tends to struggle. Yeah.
But cymbals in particular, they're so complex because it's not even a single pitch, right? I think like a human voice is much easier to do that too. You can use Melodyne and it sounds fairly convincing. Time stretching voice works well. But as soon as you have so many overtones interacting and not generating a single tone, cymbals are extremely complex, and not one algorithm I've ever heard up to today has ever been able to do that well.
He can play cymbals. Look, just heard him.
Just one of my cymbals is worth more than any of my synthesizers because of how fine the Turkish copper and
Good grief.
And to think you hit it at that price.
Try to do this with your synthesizer. There's just something about the real thing,
Some complex FM synthesis going on there.
Yeah, in real time in the air.
Yeah.
I don't know how well my microphone picked that up.
That was good.
That sounded great.
Yeah,
Yeah. We are soon going to end the show, so are there anything you want to show or say before we end?
I was just going to say, at the moment in the world of drum machines, we have to address the elephant in the room, and that's the TR-1000. Is it really worth like 4 times the price of the TR-8S?
That's so. Here's the thing: do I think it's overpriced? I don't. I really don't. Like, I think it's a little bit high priced, but also like brand, brand recognition, all that stuff. Like that still accounts for something. So like you have to give some credence to that. But also, I would say it is a really complex piece of kit. Like putting all those analog sounds under digital control, meaning it's not like a drum brute where you turn the knobs and everything and you can't save it. You can save all this stuff on there, and so that means a lot of DCA controls and converters, and like there's a lot of complex stuff that goes into building something like that. So I think that it's priced high, but not like absurd in my opinion. That being said, how like do you need it? No. Like, is it cool inspiration piece? Sure, but like the kind of what I was saying about the digital sounds in drums before is like me personally, like I was talking to Glenn the other day. I was like, dude, if I was gonna design a drum machine, right, which we're not, so don't get your hopes up, but I was saying, I was like, if I was going to design a drum machine today, I'd probably include maybe 2 analog circuits. I would do like an analog kick, because that's what people want. And then I'd do probably a cool complex drum sound, like a FM drum sound. A great module that I have is the Boom Shack, or if you look at like Hex Inverter's Mutant Machine, it can be a kick, it can be a snare, it can be, a tone, it can be all kinds of, really, that's all you need. And that's even more than you need. That's really kind of a marketing thing, because the truth is, I guarantee you, the best of us is not going to be able to tell the difference between a really well done digital analog model of a kick and an actual analog kick. You're not going to. I've got tons of them things. I've done tons of A/B comparisons, not just with myself, but with people who have much younger ears than mine. And I can tell you, no, like it doesn't really matter. Like even on massive sound systems where it's like, oh, you're getting down to like 12 hertz, it doesn't matter. Like the digital recreations these days can sound every bit as good and every bit as punchy, if not more.
Agreed.
So to me, I'm kind of more interested in the sampling aspect that they've layered in with it. Like that stuff looks really interesting to me, and what they're doing with the sequencer. But other than that, I'm like, yeah, dude, TR-8S is dope. Like that's a cool drum machine that you can get for way less now. So like that, that's where my money is kind of looking.
I've watched the 3.5 hour deep dive video, and it's stunning. It's what it can do is amazing. But
yeah.
It's not the drum machine that I want. The drum machine I want is everything that I see in the TR-1000 except the analog stuff. I want just the digital version of the TR-1000. That would do me. And I'm thinking I'll probably save like $1,000 by not having the
sampling aspect of it is what gets me, because I'm like, okay, because that was like why I bought my Rhythm MK1 and Rhythm MK2. It was because I wanted like sampling with like analog drums and all that stuff, and then it had like 12-bit sampling, and and in the end I didn't really gel with the programming style of that thing, but I loved how it sounded, and it's a cool machine. And I think it's interesting to me that it looks so Electron to me. And this does a lot of what the Rhythm was doing, and so to me, I just see a lot of parallels there. But yeah, it's like if the TR-8S had the screen and ease of use of the sampling stuff that the TR-1000 has, like that would be a really cool update. Like if they did a new TR-8S that was all digital but had that stuff, I agree with you. I'd be down. I would
imagine it'll be on the horizon, because that's their flagship drum machine. A bit like the TR-8S was their flagship drum machine. And then they had the 6S, and then they had all the other boutiques and the little compact versions of that. So I'm going to imagine at some point there will be I don't know, a TR 500 or whatever they're going to call it. Well,
Yeah, and I don't think anybody should be complaining about Roland doing a flagship like this and it being really expensive. It's like, you asked for this. This is what you wanted. Stop complaining. Like,
I have a hot take about the analog versus digital thing. I totally agree with Ken about the punchiness of kick drum and the accuracy of modeling and stuff. Where I think analog still beats digital is in the degradation. So, like, I haven't heard a tape simulation plugin that sounds like a real tape. I haven't heard a guitar overdrive.
The non-linearity,
anything
saturation.
Anything that is about destroying a sound and making something sound like lo-fi and bad and warbled and saturated, and that's where I still think it's easier for me to turn on my like Tascam 4-track and run something through that and then re-record it than to try to do anything digital to that. So that's my only 2 cents.
You know, so I have the EchoFix EFX2, and I use that thing a lot. Like, and I've got really great emulations of that. You know what I mean?
What is that exactly?
So it's basically like a modern Space Echo.
Okay.
And I had a Space Echo too, and I prefer it because it has a much lower noise floor than the Space Echo. And honestly, Space Echoes sound terrible when they're overdriven. Like, I really don't like the sound of a Space Echo that's being hit too hard. And this thing actually sounds nice when it's being hit a bit harder. But
okay.
And yeah, I keep a Porta Studio as well, cassette. That kind of stuff is great. There's some really good plugins that will get very close, but again, it's like you say, you have to really, it's like your own personal ear to it. Like, you have to really kind of tweak it how you like. But when it comes to like the analog drum machines, I just
agreed.
For one, analog drum machines in general are more limited, right? Just like an analog synth is more limited, like, just by default nature of it, compared to like, if you're not going to be able to have a gazillion LFOs and all that stuff, even on something like a Schmidt, right? Like, programming that thing is kind of a nightmare. But when you're doing drums, it's like, really, you're trying to get like a specific sound and a punch and all that, and it's like, I love my modular. Like, I've got all these great analog drums in there, but I use my digital drums in my modular interchangeably. And oftentimes it's like, okay, I really like the sound of the digital stuff more. Like, it's more modern and it's getting exactly where I need to be more often. But I kind of always layer it with an analog 808 type sound. And I
like the modular to actually try to get out of the kick, snare, and hi-hat paradigm.
Well, the sequencing of it is
just
so much fun.
In general is too stuck on that. Like, think about it. Everything that's been done since the 40s or 30s to today is still kick, snare, and hi-hat, and slight variations of that. Like, there's so many more possibilities, and especially on modular, I think, like, I don't try to do. You can do that with a real drum set or with a drum machine. Go for something different when you're using a modular. I mean, that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, no, that, and also the sequencing. Like, I love using really quirky sequencers for it, like Trigger Riot. Dude, if you guys have a modular and you don't have a Trigger Riot, but you're doing percussion in your modular, you're crazy, because you can get a Trigger Riot for so cheap now. When they first came out, they were like $500 years ago, and now you can get them for like $200 easy. And it is
Faco Burst. It's similar, I think.
It is such a cool like trigger sequencer thing where you can do all these kind of matrix weird things with it, and like, I have a blast with coming up with like happy accident drum patterns with that thing. It's just, oh yeah, that's like my secret sauce. Like, I always pair that with my more complex sequencers, and like have, like, really that stays always connected to my Modbap Trinity, but then I have my more traditional sequencers going to the rest of my modular drums. So like, I can always get these like quirky weird patterns out of that, and then if I need that 4 on the floor or whatever, I just use my other stuff.
Yeah. fun. I like to use sample and hold to change the hi-hat pitch and duration, and that's another way to have your repetitive patterns never repeat exactly the same.
I did a video last night. I don't know if I was actually supposed to post it or not. So if you see it now, you can see it now, but it might get deleted. So I got a Isanine voice for the modular, which is, it's a single voice of Jupiter 8, but it's, highly modular. And I was running the sample and hold from the Isanine voice into the performer by Modbap. So the glitch duration and pitch is being adjusted by that, by the sample and hold
randomly, right?
Yeah, and then I have like a Jesse Dean fader. So like I was using the cross mod. So as I bring the cross mod up, I could cut it and scratch the synth like a turntable. It was
Nice.
really fun stuff.
I have one of those battle modules by Ginkgo Synthes.
Yeah, I need to check that out. It looks really cool.
I use that for my granular modules. So I have the R-bar and the Morphogene, and I use them as if they were two turntables with the battle between them. So it's like kind of a modular turntablism idea. It's kind of cool.
Morphogene is so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess that's the end.
Yeah, it's time. It's time. I asked before if you wanted to say anything or play anything before we ended. Kinkas, are you?
Yeah. Well, I ended up not showing you guys the LXR, so I can maybe just
that's true.
quickly. Quickly go through a beat with a couple of the presets, and that's it. It's just a deep engine. It has its own mixer here for all the voices, and you can save your presets. So I have a few going here. I just click on load kit, and I can flip through a few. So this is Carp Core. So this thing has a very wide range for any style, and it's very unique and interesting. Probably my most versatile and original drum machine. Love that one. So yeah, that's all. I just wanted to go through a couple of these presets just to show off how unique this drum machine is and how wide the range of possibilities is.
Yeah. We can't hear you, Ken, but you're muted. So.
You weren't supposed to. I have ADD.
Okay.
I think most of us probably have some kind of neurodivergence.
Yeah.
Tim has just muted himself. He probably thought it would last for half an hour.
Well, yeah, I'm actually gonna head out because I'm going to take my kids on a nature walk right now before it gets too late.
That's a good idea.
Okay. We are ending the show now. So see you next time, Ken. So
everyone, thank you for having me, and it was great seeing you all again. And we will all talk soon.
Same. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Bye, Ken. And then let's wrap it up. So thanks to all the chatters. It's been a joy serving you. And thanks to all the guests. It's been a joy having you. And
thank you for
Kinkas,
hosting us, Henrik.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Kinkas, I think we should do another drum show at some time where it's more about demoing stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's return to that. And I think the Gear Guild is a good topic too for a show.
Also, yeah.
So let's
And
return to
the ideas between mimicking true instruments or allowing a synthesizer to just be a synthesizer. That's an interesting subject as well.
yeah.
For sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
And another thing, I am. This is. Oh, sorry, that was my microphone. I had to show this shirt.
Installing muscles. Wait.
So
I think we all need that bootloader.
yeah. And before ending, I have to say that I will do a noise show with this thing here, and bearing a UBX-A, the D version, the module, and I must say it's really much better than I thought. So I look
Cool.
forward to show you that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah. Thank
See
you, Henrik.
you.
So we've got a very exciting week coming up because we've got Omnisphere 3 coming out on Tuesday and Unify 2 coming out on Friday. So it's
Yeah,
gonna be a
that too.
busy week.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I hope all of you have looked in Synth memes. I made a meme of from the video of Omnisphere 3, where I called it Volca VST instead. Yeah, check that Facebook group, Synth memes. And then let's end it for today. I have to say, there will be a few weeks before the next show because I'm packing down at my old parents' home and moving my mom to her new apartment. So there's a lot of work there.
Yeah.
So see you next time.
Cool.
Bye bye.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye.